Well, switching gears, high school is out for the summer of 1986 when a murder takes place in the small town of Laurel, Maryland.
Oh my, that's a setting for a new book by author Teddy Durgin, who joins us right now to tell us lots more about it. And it is set in Laurel.
Yes, it is. Yes,
let me guess why. That's where you're from.
That is where I grew up. My family and I moved there in 1977. I went to the old O.W. Fair Elementary School until '79. And I went to Pilati High School and was a graduate there in 1988.
And you mentioned an awful lot of things as settings that are Laurel. For somebody who else, I'm also from Laurel, so I recognize some of these settings right away. Tell us about those.
Well, my first job was the same as the main character's first job in the book. I worked for a chain of small apparel stores at Laurel Center Mall called 16 Plus for plus-size women. And that was my first job, and so was Sam in the book. And the murder happens at the mall. He's an unpopular guy at the high school, and he kind of theorizes that maybe he can solve this murder and maybe get popular in school. I grew up in the John Hughes era. I'm a Generation Xer. So I started with the premise of, what if John Hughes had ever written a teenage murder mystery? What would it how would it kind of go? So,
we just gave folks a close-up look at the book. Now, what audience is this book geared toward?
You know, I've been asked that, and the thing is that, you know what, we're all 30 years older. So someone who was 30 in 1986 is now 60, so they're going to get stuff like that. I'm 45, I'm Generation X, I was 15 back then. If you live in Laurel now and you want to know about Laurel then, if you're a young adult, I think it would actually, you'd still see a lot of familiar stuff in there. So it really crosses, I think, a lot of demographics and age ranges.
And initially I thought this was just a novel for young teens, but it crosses over.
No, it's actually really, really cool. I mean, I have people from my old high school who have read it, and they're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you packed that much detail into it, and all these, these places that don't exist anymore, and like the Laurel Center Mall and Woolworths, the old dime store and the Open Center there, and Little Tavern Hamburgers, and we are dating ourselves here, but because there are some viewers who are going to be like, where, what, So.
Well, it's interesting because I actually heard about your book when you posted something on a page on Facebook. It says, you're from Laurel, Maryland, when?
Yes.
And so there's an obvious connection to people who are residents from the area.
Yeah, and that's really was cool to see. That's one of the side benefits of doing this and reconnecting with my hometown, because I have since moved out of the area, and I was. In a way, this kind of alleviated a little bit of homesickness to write this book and to put it in my hometown, because that's what John Hughes used to do when he would write. He set it in his hometown of Villone, and so they say, write what's familiar to you. Well, Laurel's familiar to me, and 80s, 80s trivia, 80s pop culture nostalgia, and
Great.
I kind of wove it in.
At the end, when folks have looked at the last page and all of that, what are you hoping they take away from this?
I hope they had a really good time. I think it's a comic murder mystery, so it's not terribly serious. And I hope they laughed a lot. I hope that for the people who were of my generation in Maryland, they really, really enjoyed it and saw a lot of things. I wove in a lot of, I timed it exactly with the summer of 1986. So there is some serious stuff in there about the death of Len Bias, which happened then, but there's also the release of Ruthless People and Aliens and all that. So I got the dates right. The songs that they're listening to were actually top 40 in that time. So I think it's actually kind of a cool, fun, nostalgic read. It was fun to write. It's the most fun I've ever had writing anything.
Can't wait to actually read it. All right, Teddy Durgin, thank you so much for joining us. And as he said, we had it down here as a young adult novel, but it's for everybody, crosses all generations. It's available in paperback at Amazon and other bookstores.